Hey, so a couple weeks ago I did something that was long overdue. Actually, I did three things that were long overdue. To start, I finally weighed the tiny house. Of course, this meant moving the tiny house, and that meant renting a truck. I wanted something that could move at least 12,000 pounds, so they set me up with a Ram 3500 dually. My trailer is rated to 10,000 pounds, and I just wanted to make sure I was going to be nowhere near any limits. I hadn't personally moved the tiny house for over 2 years, not since I moved it from the storage lot where it currently is again to the warehouse where I worked, which is about a 40-minute drive. The house was a lot lighter then, and although I was still nervous to move it back then, I had no real doubts that it was going to make it in one piece. When I hired someone to move it from the farm back to the storage lot it's at now, he was convinced that the house was around 9,000 pounds, which is what started to get me worried about it. Now that the house hadn't been moved for over a year and a half, I was starting to get even more worried and pretty paranoid about its weight. I honestly had no clue what it weighed after I'd put in the walls and the kitchen. So I bought a tongue scale off of Amazon and figured out that the tongue weight, so that's the weight pushing down on the hitch on the back of the truck, is at 1,100 pounds. So 1,100 pounds. The tongue weight is supposed to be between about 10 to 15% of your total trailer weight. And so that meant that if my tongue weight was closer to the 10% mark, then the house was close to the 11,000 pound mark, which would have been over the rating of the trailer, the tires, and the stabilizer jacks, basically everything. This house has to be under 10,000 pounds. Now granted, I was jumping to conclusions, but I really needed to find out what it weighed. I mean, I may have been fine, I may have been closer to 15% with that 1,100 pounds, in which case the house would be under 8,000 pounds total. But still, needed to find out. So began the journey. I needed to research how to weigh trailers and where, because I've never done anything like that before. So I found a commercial do-it-yourself truck scale over in an industrial area, part of town, and I went there with my car and just weighed my car. And it turned out my car weighed, well, what it was supposed to according to the specs of the car. So I was confident enough that I could bring the house there and get an accurate weight. So I packed up the house for travel, hooked it up to the truck that I rented, and off we went. Went there after business hours. The roads were pretty calm. And honestly, things could not have gone better. I first weighed the entire setup, one axle at a time on the scale. So that's the front axle of the truck, back axle of the truck, and then the two axles together of the trailer, so the whole trailer at once. And then I went and unhooked the tiny house and went back with just the truck and weighed again the front axle of the truck, then the back axle of the truck. And so what I was left with were two printouts, one with just the total weight of the truck, and one with the total weight of the truck and the trailer. And since I knew the tongue weight already, this actually gave me two ways to do the math. Way one was to add the tongue weight to the trailer weight, so that 1,100 pounds that I had measured using that tongue scale. And the second way was to subtract the truck weight from the truck plus trailer weight, which would leave me with just the trailer weight. Both methods gave me the same number, which they should, which was 8,100 pounds. What a relief. The tow guy was totally off. It wasn't even close to 9,000 pounds when he moved it. I've still got 1,900 pounds to work with, which is good because the house isn't quite done. Now, I rented the truck for 24 hours, which was the minimum, and it wasn't cheap. So I wanted to maximize my use of it. So I towed the tiny house to my parents' house, which was about a half an hour away, and did some long overdue, much needed tests on the electricity and the plumbing. That night, I hooked up electricity to the house through actual plugs for the first time. Welcome to this fully operational battle station. Tiny house. These are the living room lights. And they work. And there's a dimmer switch. It's so bright. So bright. And then there's a bathroom. And there's lights there too. And they get so bright. Ha. And then there's a bathroom fan light. Ah, it's nice. Yeah. Alright. So, things are working. It's amazing. This is a 3-way switch here in the living room. You can turn it on over here where the couch is gonna be. And you can turn it off over here at the front door. Ha! Had no idea that was gonna work, but it does. Exciting. Okay. Anyways, I'm going around turning all the things on, one circuit at a time, figuring out what the circuits are because I lost the paperwork. So I don't know what the circuits are. So that's tonight. Anyways, this is exciting. Very exciting. So the paperwork that I lost was my handwritten record that I had made back when I was first doing all of the wiring that mapped out what each breaker did. So I needed to go around and map that out again. And yes, I did not test the electrical system before filling in the walls with insulation and then vapor barrier and then the wall boards. I did test a single circuit back when the house was at the farm just to make sure I was on the right track of how to do it. But I was in a super big rush to finish up the walls and get things moving because I was getting kicked off the farm. I mean, in hindsight, I should have just worked harder, gotten it done, tested it there. But I didn't, so here we are. Anyway, I tested every single circuit and everything worked perfectly. Except for the ERV, which I think I screwed something up to do with the switches. It has a standby switch and a low and high mode, and maybe I don't know what I did. Maybe some wires weren't hooked up in the switch properly. I did test the ERV on its own with just straight power running to it when I first started all the wiring like 2 years ago. So I know the ERV works, and I'll just have to troubleshoot the switches, but I'm sure I can make it work somehow. The next morning, I tested the plumbing. Here we go. This is the real moment.
Moment of truth, eh?
Hopefully I did all this right.
Hey!
Spraying everywhere. A lot of air in the line, obviously.
It's actually spraying out over here. Can you move that thing down?
Is there a holding tank?
Some kind?
Uh-oh.
Or is it going into a bucket down there?
Is it? Yeah, it's not draining out the front, is it? Oh, good. Yeah, I'm like, oh no, why is my sink backing out? It's like there's nothing in there.
It's a gusher. Here's the cap.
Okay, perfect. Success. Nothing wrong at all. All my valves just turned over and there we were. Running water in the tiny house for the first time. The cold water worked without any issues, and once my dad took the cap off the drain that was coming out of the kitchen sink, the drain worked without any problems. So I couldn't be happier. It was too simple how well it worked. But not everything was perfect. It's gonna have some air in it. Okay. Lots of air in it. What does that mean? I had planned to just test out the cold water lines, mostly just to, again, make sure I'm kind of on the right track. But the shower didn't work. It just had a trickle coming out of it. I needed to know if there was something wrong with the shower itself, like the valves or the handle or whatever, or if it was just the case that I didn't have both lines pressurized and the shower had a built-in mechanism to make it so you wouldn't like burn yourself or get freezing cold if one of those lines lost pressure, because that's what would happen if you had, say, a nice comfortable warm shower on and then you lost all your cold water pressure, you'd have nothing but hot water flying at you. So it's a safety measure. I didn't know if the shower handle, valves, whatever were designed that way, and I couldn't find it in the instruction manual, so I had to test it. It took a bit of Mickey Mousery to get things to where I needed them to be able to actually do the test. I plan on hooking up 2 water heaters, one that's just electric and a tank, and the other one is a tankless propane heater. So I kind of have some weird plumbing that I need to do because that whole system isn't quite figured out yet. But I do have it in its early stages, which meant I had some just like open lines that needed to be plugged or rerouted so that I could actually kind of pressurize the whole hot water system so that I could have hot and cold systems going at the same time. The water would still be cold in both, but either way, just needed equal pressure in both lines to fully test the shower. And I didn't have time to just do the whole system at that point and actually make it the way it's gonna be. You know, I had to return the truck and I didn't want to drive all the way to Home Depot to get some parts I needed, so we improvised. Okay, I'm gonna test the shower head. So let it flow again.
Alright. Yeah, it's flowing.
And it worked. Turned on the shower once both lines were fully pressurized, and it worked exactly as it should. It also led me to find out that I have not finished the drain for the shower, so I made a bit of a mess down there. But that was that. We towed the house back to the storage lot and returned the truck. This was a really big milestone and a really important day for me, so I just wanted to record a little video and share that with you guys. I'll probably keep putting out these kinds of just catch-up videos as I sort of do work on it over the next few months. But as I mentioned in the update video from a couple months ago, I'm redoing like the whole channel, starting fresh with all the old footage and making kind of a higher quality, consistent package of videos, and those won't come out for at least a year. So thanks for watching. See you next time.